Hey everybody, we're back again today with another movie video. 1988 top 10 movies. I'm here with Brian, Massey's Maine Entertainment. Check his channel out below. Doc, the usual trio. We're continuing our series of tandem videos, movies on my channel, music on Brian's. Check those out. They'll all be listed in the description below. So on Brian's channel, of course, we'll be doing a perfect album, which we give 12 songs according to our favorite for each particular year. And we'll also have a Spotify list associated with those. So if you don't know the tune, or if you want to revisit the tune, you can check that out on Brian's channel. On mine, it's movies. 1988, we're working our way through. This is an interesting year as well. Guys, what do you think overall as a year? And how did it stack up for you? Was it easy to do? Did you scrap to have to come up with 10 here? Or what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like I had 10, but then it felt like I only had 10.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I only felt like maybe the top 7 were like, solid.
Yeah.
After that, I'm going, yeah, okay. I like this movie. I'll put it in there, that type of thing,
Yeah.
Just kind of rounding out the edges a little bit.
I hear you.
What would I say to that? I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd say 5 or 6. I'd say you're right, are like, really good hitters for me. I like the other movies I have on my list, obviously.
Yeah.
And this is a very personal list to me. That's all I'm going to say. That I think the year as a whole, to me personally, is very strong on the comedy side. That's my take.
Okay. Yeah, like Doc said, this is personal list. That's what this is intended to be. So depending on your genre that you feel strongest about, maybe overload a little bit. But there's a little bit of everything in there for me. Maybe not so much on the comedy end, but we'll see how that goes. All right, the order today is Brian, Doc, and myself. We're going to count them down 10 to 1. And when we get towards the end, we'll give our worst film of the year, which is always a fun exposure to lay that, golden goose of a dark egg out there, because there's always a year where these horrible films show up, especially in the 80s. It seems like there's 4 or 5, and we always seem to unravel them at the end and have a good laugh or two. So here we go. Brian, hit it off.
Okay, so starting off number 10 for me, I've got Beetlejuice here. It's really a kind of a classic comedy, and it's got a particular style to it, as all Burton films do. And I made sure to include it in top 10 because I really enjoyed Michael Keaton's performance in it. Whatever we think of the movie itself, how seriously we want to take the movie, that's just beside the point. Michael Keaton does a great job as Beetlejuice, the character here. And I like the other characters in there too. I especially like Catherine O'Hara's, and the Winona Ryder was fine in there too. I think it was maybe one of the funniest lines from it was before they actually even died in the film was, they're getting ready to go across the bridge. He said, "That's not a bridge, that's termites holding hands." But it's a good movie. I wanted to include it. It's something you can watch if you're just in the mood just to have something on in the background. It's not going to really require much attention for you. Number 9 for me, kind of keeping with this is like sci-fi comedy almost. I've got They Live from John Carpenter here. I mean, it's if you're looking for an Academy Award winner, you're not going to find it in this film. But if you're looking for some mindless action, starring people who really aren't meant to be, actors in any sense whatsoever.
Roddy Piper, buddy.
Roddy Piper in it though is actually really hilarious.
Yeah.
As the dumbfounded thing, and everybody knows the line when he walks into the bank. I mean, so if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Go watch the movie and watch when he walks into the bank with the sunglasses on. Classic line that's delivered there. You should definitely check it out. Number 8 for me, I've got a Costner film here. I've got Bull Durham. I actually think it's a really funny movie about circling the minor leagues in baseball. He is a aging catcher who has to bring along this new young stud pitcher and show him the ropes so that they can bring him up to the majors whenever they feel like he's ready. Just the antics that go on between the team and him and Susan Sarandon's character, and then Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon's character, as kind of this back and forth play that's going on. I like it one time when he basically, when he shakes off his pitches like 2 or 3 times, and then he just tells the batter what he's going to throw, and he just laces this thing going in out of there. And he walks up to the mound. He goes, "I think anything moving that fast should have a stewardess on it." And I said, that is absolutely hilarious. So it's, I don't like Kevin Costner, but I like him in this role. I think he does a really decent job. So number 7 for me, I've got Mississippi Burning. Now we're kind of really changing pace here a little bit.
Totally.
It's about them going down to the South when a few young kids from civil rights movement end up going missing when they go down to Mississippi for some protesting and stuff. And FBI agent Gene Hackman goes down and to investigate, and it's about the uncovering of some of the diabolical things that are going on during the civil rights movement and stuff. I think Frances McDormand is absolutely wonderful in this film. It would begin a whole string of movies in which I really fall in love with her acting, and I think she's great. Also great performances by Brad Dourif in the film, as well as the deputy who's in the film. Really good movie. William Dafoe's in it as well. Some really quality acting. It's just a good staple movie that somebody can see from that time era, that if you want to have some type of reference to the civil rights movement. Number 6 for me, I've got Young Guns. I know it's kind of a fun Western more than anything else. Not, I like Westerns altogether. This one was more of a fun one in a way. It's Emilio Estevez, and his brother Charlie Sheen is also in it. And it's about Billy the Kid and the band of regulators that were deputized during that time whenever their ranch leader was killed and assassinated. And then all the antics that going on in the South during that time. It's just really amazing to me. But one thing I did learn from it was just how lawless everything really was. Yeah. Even the people that were like, law men, the things that they would do that were really almost criminal in nature. This one thing that it did touch upon that I thought was like really genuine. Lou Diamond Phillips is really great in it. It's got Casey Seismoski is in it as well, right? Dermot Mulroney is in it. Kiefer Sutherland, and like I said, even Brian, I think Brian Keith is in this one, as well as the assassin that actually comes to hunt them down, the bounty hunter. Yeah, it is Brian Keith.
It is.
Yeah, so it's got a lot of people in it, and it's if you like Westerns, I think you would really enjoy the movie. So number 5 for me, I've got Die Hard. I think now you're starting to get into the movies that kind of change genres of movies, and I think Die Hard has to be given credit for changing the action movie to some extent. I know there's a running joke that it's a Christmas movie, but it's an action movie. I think Alan Rickman's character in this is just top notch. He brings out about a different kind of villain. Your villain is no longer your big muscle guy that's going to trade punches with the protagonist in the film. It's the guy that's going to be using his brains and be diabolical in that way. And I thought that Alan Rickman's character going up against Bruce Willis's character, and it just, the chemistry and was great in it, and the bad ways that they actually had to encounter each other. So I enjoyed it. Number 4, I have A Fish Called Wanda. I think it's maybe the funniest movie overall in the 80s, and at least in my opinion, about a failed jewel heist in which the criminals are basically turning on each other. And so you had Kevin Kline's character and Jamie Lee Curtis's character, like backstabbing her boyfriend at the time so they can get a hold of the jewels, and and then what happens is that, of course, everybody's not trusting each other, but he's already moved the jewels with other people. So it's all these antics that are going on. So she has to try to get close to a barrister so she can get information about the case, who's played by John Cleese. Absolutely hilarious in it. Michael Palin's hilarious in it. I guess Kevin Kline does kind of steal the show with his bumbling idiot character Otto, who's always has this running gag in it. Every time that they call him stupid, he's always like, "Don't call me stupid," and it always retaliates in some way. And it's a really funny movie. It's one you could just watch over and over again. Number 3 for me, kind of different Martin Scorsese film. I've got The Last Temptation of Christ here. I know that this movie was definitely looked down upon by the Catholic Church because it's based on the book of the same name. But William Dafoe does a fantastic job in this film, playing Jesus Christ and drawing he does an excellent job drawing a parallel between the godliness of Jesus's character and also the flawed man that Jesus actually was during that time. And I thought they did a really good job in it. I was really big and I was very impressed by the soundtrack to it, which is performed by Peter Gabriel. The album's called Passion. It's music for The Last Temptation of Christ. He mixes a lot of world music and world sounds in there, and it's just a tremendous film all the way through. It didn't get a lot of love, but it's one of my favorite films from the 80s altogether. Number 2 for me from '88 is Accidental Tourist. William Hurt was on a big run of really successful acting movies during the 80s, and this one I think was no exception. It was really kind of an underrated film, I think, for him. Lawrence Kasdan wrote the film and directed the film. This also has Gina Davis is in it as well. It's just about a guy who had tragedy in his life and decided not to attach himself or stay anchored in any place, almost to protect himself from being hurt again. So he becomes this guy who writes guides to people who like to travel the world and how to do it more efficiently, and ends up falling in love with Gina Davis's character when he needed to actually board his animals while he was traveling one time.
While he was traveling.
Yeah, it was a very, very cool. And my number one, my worst film of the year. I don't like to really hit on low hanging fruit. I think I've mentioned that, but this one was so terrible.
It's so low.
And even though it's a sequel, I have to go after it. Caddyshack 2. It's just absolutely ruined Caddyshack in a lot of ways for me. I mean, and there's that running joke even on ESPN where they were asking this guy who was a caddy, a professional caddy, "Oh, what's the best movie about caddies?" Caddyshack. What's the best movie with actors, and a movie about caddies, and Caddyshack. And if they say, "Well, what's the worst movie about caddies?" He said, "Caddyshack 2." Because there's not that many movies about caddies. Let's be serious. But that movie is terrible. It just takes a whole big nosedive in it. Randy Quaid's in it. Not many. Dan Aykroyd plays a wacko guy who's supposed to be like the antithesis of what Bill Murray's character was in the first film, but it just all fell flat. All the jokes were flat. It didn't really resonate with me at all. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it if it was on, and I probably would turn it off if it actually came on the TV and it was in front of me. I'd probably just turn the TV off and say, "Well, go listen to music instead." So number 1 film for me, though, I've got Dangerous Liaisons. Stephen Frears is the director. It's got my favorite actor, John Malkovich, in it. Also stars Glenn Close and Uma Thurman. Very young Keanu Reeves is in it as well. Based on the story, it's a French novel, which is of the same name, but I can't pronounce it in French very well. They end up remaking this movie in 1989 as an original French film, but they called it Valmont when it came out in 1989. It's basically, you got the bourgeois people who are basically bored are always making these little side crazy bets about things because they're just simply bored with their lives and their pretentious nature. And it's Glenn Close makes a wager with John Malkovich that he wants him to defoul one of the characters in it, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, before she gets married. And if he's successful in that, then she's actually willing to sleep with John Malkovich if he can actually perform that. And it's it's about that and how he ends up feeling the regret because he actually falls in love with Michelle Pfeiffer's character. And it's a really great movie all the way through. The acting's great. And I suggest people get an opportunity to see it. I think young people might know the movie Cruel Intentions that was done with Ryan Felipe. And
That's right.
yeah, I can't remember the girl's name in it. The girl who played in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yes, they
That's it.
Cruel Intentions is a very young, modern version of
Yeah.
Dangerous Liaisons. So if anybody needs to see a more recent version, they might want to check out that one as well. So, but that's my number one, Dangerous Liaisons.
Very nice.
Very good.
Yep, you got some good ones on there. Couple surprises for me. I was surprised that They Live, which I haven't seen, believe it or not. And Young Guns, pretty high on the list, number 6.
Yeah, it was.
But I
Yeah,
don't want to
it
give
was,
away my
it was a good list. I mean,
yeah, there's some good
that's
ones.
my take.
Very good.
2, 3. Yeah, we hit on a few there, buddy.
Okay.
Nice to see The Last Temptation of Christ, because that was my one of my runners up. I just couldn't get it on the list, but I do admire the filmmaking of it and Defoe's performance as well. Good stuff.
Yeah, very good.
Cool.
All right. What do you got, Doc? Jump in.
Jump in. I'm not going to jump in with the best note, I think, to start off my top 10 list here, but my number 10 is going to be The Accused at number 10.
Number 10.
This is not a nice movie.
No.
It's a crappy topic. It's everything else under the sun. Jodie Foster's performance is second to none. And outside what the movie talks about and brings and stuff, it's not a perfect movie, all right? But her performance is going on my top 10 based on Jodie Foster in this movie, man. And the movie's very good. It's a very powerful and, like I said, crappy subject matter and things going wrong in a bar with a whole bunch of guys and one girl. You can get where this is going. So The Accused makes my list, man. Out of 88 top 10 movies, that's in the top 10, man, for me.
Good.
Number 9. I've always liked this movie, man. Sidney Poitier comes back, and I'm going with Shoot to Kill, man. I think it's a really crafty, well-written action kind of thriller. So we say much better than Cliffhanger before Cliffhanger actually came out or something like that. It's almost like they stole it from this, but you get the idea, you know, you got to go up in the mountains and stuff like this. And Clancy Brown's in it and Christy Alley and Tom Berenger's in it, but Sidney Poitier is fantastic in this movie. It's really creepy in one sense, you know. Clancy Brown's really good, man. That's what I can tell you about that too. He's maybe an underrated dude in the history of when he shows up, man, he's pretty freaking good, man. Shoot to Kill. I just think it's got an action thriller, it's suspenseful, it's a cop movie. It's I like it. I still like it. So it's gonna come in at number 9 for me, man, of that year. Number 8. Listen, man, I mentioned before, I think this is comedy heavy this year. So I'm going to put the comedies that attract to me, and these are going to make my 10. I put these on at any time. So Naked Gun's going to come in at number 8, man. What can I tell you?
Yeah.
Files from the Police Squad, man. I cannot get enough of that Zucker, Leslie Nielsen combo, and it's making my list. Stupid, brainless, mindless, perfect kind of comedy, man. That's what you want when you're watching these kind of flicks. And if you can get past that, or if that's in your sweet spot, or you can make it work for you, these guys are the best at it. That's what I can tell you.
Nice.
Naked Gun's friggin' hilarious, man. So that's my take. So
Very funny.
yeah, I think there's some pretty funny movies on this list. Yeah, man, that thing got out of here in a hurry, eh? So yeah, Bull Durham's coming in right behind it.
Yeah.
You know, Crash Davis, like you said, Kevin Costner's really good at it. Susan Sarandon's very good in this movie, actually, too.
Yeah.
She is.
Tim Robbins is the ultimate goofball for like a guy who's trying to make it to the majors. Like this guy has. If he didn't have the talent, man, this guy would have be on you've been calling him down the street for your team, man. So this guy's, what a great character by Robbins, I thought. And Crash carries them through the whole thing, Costner does, but that character of Tim Robbins is just pretty classic too, man. Bull Durham is a friggin' funny baseball flick, man. Really funny movie. It's making the number 7 for me, man. I think it's a great flick.
Yeah.
Like my baseball movies, man. What can I tell you? 8 Man Out comes in right behind it. It's a little bit different note, but I like my baseball movies, man. So 8 Man Out about the Black Sox. What can you say, man? Shoeless Joe. It's got a great cast, Cusac's in it, Sheen's in it, Christopher Lloyd's in it. Just a great story about did they or did they not throw the World Series, the White Sox / Black Sox. 8 Man Out, man. Those kind of stats, man, Shoeless is
yeah.
I don't know, man. That guy didn't throw nothing. That's what I can tell you. So
yeah, it would be awful hard for
the stats talk, right? You're talking about in the 1900s, early 1900s. These guys are getting 350 and stuff like that. That guy ain't throwing nothing, man. Give me a break.
Yeah. Crazy. It's
a different video for a different day, Rich, I think. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I go on a run here too, Brian. So I got Wanda coming in right behind that one, man.
Nice.
Yeah, you're right. It's the cast of characters, man. Michael and Cleese and Jamie Lee Curtis and Klein. They're all fantastic in this movie, man. What a freaking hilarious flick. Cleese wrote a good one here, man. Michael Palin's hilarious. So, but Klein. Yeah. Calling you stupid would be an insult to stupid people. So you're right. It's a stupid joke, right? So
I love that. Gorillas don't read Nietzsche. Yes, they do, Otto. They just don't understand it.
Yeah, another one.
And Klein making fun of Palin there with his stutter and stuff like that or whatever. It's just over the top. Just Kevin Kline's hilarious in that flick, man. But they all are. They're all great characters. And one is a top 10er for me in '88 as well, man. Placement is one thing, right? That's the way I would look at it. I got another really good comedy right behind it for me, man. I got Dirty Rotten Scoundrels coming in right behind it. So
Doc going with the comedies this year, man.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Right. It's a funny one,
big
though.
time. Oh yeah, what can I tell you? This is another one. It's there's different vibes of the comedies, right? You got that stupid comedy with Naked Gun. You got a whole bunch of things happening. And let's say Fish Called Wanda.
Yeah.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is like the con artist comedy, and it's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is classic, man. Steve Martin's freaking hilarious in this, and so is freaking Michael Caine, man. They're both great in this movie.
Right there.
Yeah. They both deliver really well, and I think Frank Oz gets underrated in some things, man. Every time his name shows up on something, it's usually pretty good too, man. So what are the chances I got another comedy after that? Eh? Holy crap. Midnight Run's coming in right behind it, man.
I knew that had to be somebody's list. Good one.
Yeah, you guys know I like this one anyway from before. So it's showing up on my list on '88 when it came out. I'm sure it was not a shock, but De Niro and Charles Grodin just playing off each other in this movie is, you have to like Charles Grodin to like this movie. And if you don't like him, or if you can't take his dry sense of humor, it's not going to be in your bill. It is right up my alley, man. That's what I can tell you. He's in another one that this year that didn't make my list, which is another comedy, which is The Couch Trip. But The Bounty Hunter out that year, and De Niro's got to bring in the Grodin there for embezzling from the mob and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of things that happen. So I got all 4 kind of comedies you could actually put together in one year, all different kind of segments. They're all making my list, man. I just thought it was a very comedy heavy. Midnight Run's a classic in my eyes for comedies, man. Loads of swearing too, man. Holy cow.
Oh yeah.
Number 2, I got Die Hard, man. I'm gonna tell you, pretty tough not to be a number 1, man, because it could be a number 1 in some people's eyes. if you said 88 and stuff like that, a lot of people would sit there and say, yeah, man, that's the movie of 88 and stuff, as it turns out. And it wasn't at the time, but, you know, hindsight, it turns out it's pretty friggin' big. But it depends on what kind of movies you want. You know, I don't have Dangerous Liaisons or something like that making my list, or The Accidental Tour. They're great movies. They're just not what Doc wants to watch in 88 all the time. These are, I think. So Die Hard, what can you say, man? Stephen E. D'Souza, that guy, he's a hit and miss writer for me, man. You know, he does this and he does Hudson Hawk, you know. So I mean, you know, the same dude wrote both. Come on, man. He wrote Judge Dredd, crap in my eyes, but he wrote he wrote The Running Man, which I love. So this guy's all over the map. But, this one's a great one. Die Hard is the beginning of the almost everyday guy hero kind of action flick, and that's the way I would look at it. And that kicked off a whole bunch of different things that would follow. Man, what can I tell you? Die Hard's a classic, man. Worst movie of the year. Frig, man, Brian nailed it, man. Caddyshack 2 is the worst freaking movie of the year. Wow. They I had some good part twos that were in contention here. You know, I'm not gonna say Arthur Part 2. Crap. Iron Eagle 2. God, that's so good. That's so good. Lou Gossett Jr., I could not do it again to the dude. So I had to stay away from it. Caddyshack 2. It misses on everything. You know, I don't know what the scores are on that thing or anything. Brian said he'd turn it off or put on music. It wouldn't even get the power, man. I would never freaking watch that movie again. That's Jackie Mason doing the Rodney Dangerfield character, and
oh yeah,
come on. You know, he's a pretty talented dude. He was great on talk shows and stuff. Don't show up in Caddyshack 2, man. Go back to Carson. Do your shtick at the time he was doing. But I got no idea, man. Caddyshack 2. Brian nailed it, man. Worst movie of the friggin' year. I don't know what to tell you. That's my take too, Brian. Best movie of the year, man. It's Mississippi Burning for me.
Okay.
Brian touched on a few points there. Yeah, Francis McDormand's fantastic. Very key in this movie, if you want the truth. So pivotal in the movie. Listen, it's not the best subject matter. Again, I start with the accused, you know, and I'm ending with Mississippi Burning, but maybe the subject matter and stuff like that. Powerful movies, man. And this is the civil rights movement in Mississippi and everything else, and Hackman's the FBI, Defoe's the FBI. Two different ways about going about how they want to go about their business. I don't know, man. Hackman's freaking fantastic. I don't know what to say, man. I told you before, man. He shows up in a movie. 99% chance it's going to be in my top 10, man. I think he's one of the best actors ever. And Mississippi Burning. And Defoe's fantastic, man. Like I said, so is Francis. This movie is a great one. That's why I'm going to end my list at number 1 with Mississippi Burning.
Nice. Well, we hit on 4, but I honestly swear I thought Die Hard would be your number 1 movie, Doc.
I did too.
Did you?
I did. I wrote it down off to the side going, Doc's going to pick Die Hard.
I said it could have been number 1, man, because I would watch Die Hard over Mississippi Burning, but if I got to pick the best movie of that year to me,
you're balancing that out.
I'm trying to balance it out in my head, you know. I'd watch Die Hard 10 times before I'd watch Mississippi Burning, but Mississippi Burning's the better movie to me.
Right.
Yeah. I knew Naked Gun would be on there at Midnight Run. Those were predictions. I'm pleasantly surprised with Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, because I think it's a very funny movie.
Yeah.
And The Accused is a good movie. It's hard hitting, but it's a good movie.
Yep. Yeah.
And cool. I have to plead honesty here. Never saw Shoot to Kill.
You never saw Shoot to Kill?
Oh, I missed it somehow.
Yeah, it's a good movie, man.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it either.
I have not. I remember it, but it's one I skipped for whatever reason. So,
yeah, I think you guys would like it, man. The first half of that movie is really catchy, man. Yeah, might slow down a little bit. Still makes my list there for a few things, but you'll see what I mean if you watch it.
Yeah, I don't see it pop up much, but if it does, I'll have to check it out. All right, let's jump in and see if we have any sweeps here, trifectas. We may. All right, my number 10 is a little scene, kind of a sleeper film. Dominic and Eugene, Ray Liotta, Tom Hulce, Jamie Lee Curtis, twin brothers living in Pittsburgh. You got Ray Liotta as a med student. Tom Hulce is his adult, mentally disabled brother. He's a garbage collector, I believe. I'm trying to remember. And they have just real tight relationship, a commitment to each other. And, Ray Liotta's offered a scholarship to go away to school, and he doesn't want to leave his brother. And Pulse, he doesn't think he could survive without him, and basically that type of thing. Very realistic, bittersweet drama, very emotional. I really like the movie a lot. Great performances. Surprised how good an actor Tom Hulce is. He's known for Amadeus and a couple of other things, but he gives a really good performance here. Ray Liotta is right with him. So that is my number 10. My number 9 is Working Girl with Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver, and Melanie Griffith. Romantic comedy directed by Mike Nichols. You got Melanie Griffith as a secretary who's pretending to be a corporate executive when her boss injures her leg in a skiing incident. That's Sigourney Weaver. And Melanie comes up with this business proposal that Harrison Ford runs with, takes it to some other firm, and it's a winner. And eventually Sigourney Weaver recovers, and she claims that was her idea because they're both involved with, romantically with Harrison Ford. There's some jealousy there, professional. It's kind of one of them old screwball comedies that you saw in the 40s, but updated, modernized. Really enjoyable performances. Melanie Griffith's great in the movie, and I wanted to single her out. And she also claims to have a head for business and a bod for sin. She walks around the apartment vacuuming naked and that kind of thing. So that wins points for me. Number 9. Number 8.
You just try to slide that in there and move on to number 8. What is that?
You like my segue? I moved right to number 8. Number 8 is 8 Men Out. Baseball.
Right on.
John Sayles, story of the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Was it for real? Was it just made up? It was big in baseball history, obviously, because Shoeless Joe is banned for life. This is back in the days when it was sort of a dead ball era. The next year, Babe Ruth comes on the scene really and starts hitting home runs left and right, and sort of left this in the dust. They needed something to propel baseball back to the national sport again. So great cast, like Doc mentioned: Cusack, Charlie Sheen, Michael Rooker's in here, David Strathairn, Chris Lloyd, a bunch of guys. It's a great account of a turning point in baseball history. So I wanted to include it. My number 7 is another baseball movie, Bull Durham. So I got back-to-backers there. Comedy, kind of a romance, but it's sports as the backdrop. Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, and Tim Robbins. You guys mentioned it already. That's a trifecta, by the way. We all had that.
Yeah, it is.
You got the aging catcher trying to mentor this rookie pitcher who's got wild stuff all over the place and trying to hone it in so they can pick them up to the big leagues. And at the same time, you got this small town groupie played by Sarandon, who every year she hooks up with a different baseball player. It's her thing is to sleep with one of the local guys on the Bull Durham team. Good baseball movie, good romance. I like the dialogue between Costner and Sarandon, and also the interplay between Costner and Tim Robbins when he's on the mound trying to straighten his ass out. They're vying for power. Who's going to do it their way? So great movie. My number 6 is Die Hard. I had to include it. It's such a classic action flick. Bruce Willis, Alan Rickman is the bad guy, Bonnie Bedelia is the wife. I never thought of it as a Christmas movie, although I've heard it referred to that way. It's strictly an action picture, and it made a ton of money. Its budget was 25 to 35 million. It grossed 140. That's just in the box office in the theater. You know what it did after that one, the home video and that type of thing. It just became a mega hit. Some of these actors back then that were offered the role and turned it down. I was surprised Frank Sinatra at that time was 70 years old. He was offered to play the Bruce Willis character and shot it down. That
Are you
would not have
serious?
worked.
What?
That would not have worked. Others, Stallone, Richard Gere, Clint Eastwood, Nick Nolte, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, Jimmy Caan, Don Johnson, and Al Pacino all shot this movie down before they went to Bruce Willis, who was doing moonlighting on TV at the time.
That's right.
Sybil Shepherd, she got pregnant. There was a 3-month gap in her schedule because she had to go out on maternity. So Bruce took that opportunity to take the job, and the rest is history. And his career was made by it, really, as far as being a film star. He was, doing TV work on Moonlighting, which is an entertaining series, but Die Hard put him in the big time. And some of those actors just would not have worked in that role. You can't picture anybody but Bruce Willis playing that role, with the wife beater shirt and the whole 9 yards. Maybe James Caan. James Caan could have pulled it off.
Mel Gibson
James
would have been
could have
the
pulled
only
it off for
person on
sure.
that list that maybe could have done it.
Yeah, Gibson could have done it.
Yeah, that everybody else, I'm like, what?
What? Frank Sinatra? I mean, it's laughable. Anyway, top 5. My number 5 is The Accidental Tourist. I do have it on the list. Lawrence Kasdan. It's a sad movie in a lot of ways. You got William Hurt as this detached human being over the tragic loss of his son in an accident. His wife leaves him. So he not only loses his son, he loses his wife. He's trying to find himself. He's got a quirky family. They're all nuts. He comes across Gina Davis as a dog walker, I believe she is, or works in a pet store. And she's quirky herself. And she's trying to pull him out of the doldrums. He has no happiness in his life. He's just going through the motions, writing these little books for travelers. And it's like an internal performance. You're not seeing anything on the outside, really, but you're feeling everything he's going through on the inside. That's how good of an actor Hurt was. We lost him earlier this year, but one of the better actors of the 80s. We've mentioned that time and time again, but anybody that hasn't seen those movies in the 80s, catch up with those, because you'll see the different variety of performances in each one, and that's what makes a great actor. He's not given the same role every time out. My number 4 is a foreign movie. I don't think I've done a foreign movie yet, but I threw one in this year. Cinema Paradiso, an Italian film. Oscar winner for best foreign language film. Coming of age film here between a young boy and this aging projectionist in the local cinema. It's post World War II, told in flashback. Really, the young kid sneaks into the movie theater and hangs out with this old guy, and they become buddies, that kind of thing. The local priest in this small town, he owns the theater, and he edits out all the kissing and hugging scenes. So instead of an edited film, he only, once that comes up, the kissing and hugging, that has to go. He clips it out. The audience boos because the film's edited. There's censorship going on. Eventually, the projectionist becomes blind and eventually dies. And as an adult, the guy, now an adult, as a boy, the adult comes back here and for the old man's funeral. And it ends with a real emotional payoff. Do I give away the ending? I don't know.
No.
I won't give away the ending, but it's a real heartwarming ending between the boy and the old man. It's a must-see foreign film. My number 3 is Dangerous Liaisons. Ryan had it as number 1. I think it's a really, really good movie. Glenn Close, probably your best performance ever. That Fatal Attraction.
Fatal.
One of those two. Malkovich is excellent. Pfeiffer's in it. Even Keanu Reeves is in it. Uma Thurman, there's a supporting cast as well. Very cruel, very deceptive, seductive. A lot of game playing going on. Wicked cruel, by the way.
Yeah.
They're playing with people's lives and betting on, I can get her and she can get him. And it's like a game of chess with people's hearts and bodies and stuff. Very, very weird, but effective. A lot of betrayal and double crossing and cat and mouse stuff. Really an interesting movie. I like Cruel Intentions, the remake, modernized, updated, but this is the real deal here. Dangerous Liaisons, it's the best. I don't like Valmont at all, the one that came out a year later. But Dangerous Liaisons is an excellent movie. Number 2 is Mississippi Burning. Doc's number 1. Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe. This is another trifecta, by the way.
Oh, it is. That's right.
Helen Parker. Great supporting cast. Frances McDormand, Brad Dourif, and R. Lee Ermey's in here too as the sheriff, I believe. Very historical crime thriller theme here with the racism and the hate crimes and the crosses burning, all the stuff that went on in the Deep South during the 60s, the civil rights workers down there, and they disappear, and the FBI agents played by Hackman and Defoe go down to investigate, and they uncover some horrible truths about who's behind everything. There's Klan members and the redneck mayor. I guess he's the mayor, not the sheriff. R. Lee Ermey, who we mentioned before in Full Metal Jacket. Great actor for a non-actor. He really gives another excellent performance. The guy had an act for bringing a character to life. So that's a real strong movie. I can see why it stops #1, and had to have it. My worst movie, I didn't go with Caddyshack 2, although it's dreadful. I went with Earth Girls Are Easy. I hate this movie. Absolutely hate it. I hate any stupid, inane movie they try to make sense of. This is Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis and Jim Carrey. Aliens land in the swimming pool in the valley and in Southern California. It's just zany, wacky, and silly and moronic. For those reasons, it made my worst list of the year.
My wife loves that movie.
There are people that do love it. I can't vibe to those kind of movies. You know?
Wow.
I'm
Sorry,
I have issues. Now, #1, I know I'm going to take a lot of heat. Rain Man, my #1, directed by Barry Lev. I love the movie. I know you guys are not big fans, or it would be on your list. I just like the bonding, the road movie, set up with the two star performers here, Hoffman and Cruise, two brothers that never really knew each other. One was institutionalized, one smells money, and he's a wheeler dealer, a hot shot, usual Cruise performance. And the other, of course, Dustin Hoffman's the autistic savant who can count toothpicks off the floor and count cards in the casino. And he does some things that Cruise likes because it can make him some cash. And he's upset with his father because he cut him out of the will. That's the whole plot that gets things going. So he takes him out of the institution, and it's a setup for the movie. And of course, he finds out that Rain Man, played by Hoffman, has all these routines that he can't break. Like he has to watch People's Court at 7 o'clock every night, or he goes ape shit. And he goes through the airport. He can tell you what airlines have crashed and all this kind of stuff that only a savant would know. But there's lots of humanity in here. Cruise finally sees the light towards the end of the film. You can call it hokey, but I think the film works perfectly for me. So that's my #1, and I can watch that anytime. If it's on, I'm watching it.
Nice. So we did get our
Very
3
good.
trifectas.
We got our 3. We got what?
We got our 3.
Die Hard and Mississippi Burning. 3 good ones.
Nice.
Sure they are.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We would all say that. I don't bet you. Listen, I get your Rain Man pick, and I knew it was going to be on your list. I did.
Yeah.
I would almost say, in one sense, I almost like Cruise's performance a little bit more than I like Hoffman's, and that might sound odd. Just I think Hoffman's almost a little too much over the top for my liking in one sense. But listen, I get what you're talking about in the movie, and there's a lot of great undertones to the flick as well. But
yeah,
like it's on my honorables, and it was on my list for a while. So
yeah, it's just a movie that I think is really well made and well done and well acted. So, not that the others aren't. Mississippi Burning is pretty intense, pretty good. Excellent.
Totally.
I love Dangerous Liaisons too. I think it's a very unique movie.
Yeah.
And anybody that hasn't seen Cinema Paradiso, I recommend that. Even if you don't.
Been a long time.
It's
been a long time since I've seen it.
If you like those,
I've never seen it.
Coming of age kind of experiences, it's really excellent.
Is it better than Naked Gun? Are you sure it's better than Naked Gun?
Well, it's not for you. You like those laughs. I love Naked Gun too. I really do.
Yeah.
But
Strike two.
any honorable mentions that we failed to single out?
Brian?
No, I mean there wasn't a whole lot that I would want to even
I
mention
have a
really.
couple.
I mean,
I got a
I
couple.
looked at the list and a lot of it's a lot of rom-com stuff and
Yeah,
this didn't really.
a lot of it is. I think Big's a pretty good movie with Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
Where he's playing the
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah.
Bird with Forrest Whitaker playing Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker.
Yeah. But they're not at the same level. Running on Empty, it's got kind of these hippies on the run with Judd Hirsch and Christine Lottie.
And I had seen Midnight Run, Doc. You remember remember we talked about that in
That's right.
one of our first series. I guess it just didn't make my top 10. I mean, it's fine.
Oh yeah.
But,
You know what? It's 2 or 3 watches in, you might say, "Hey, listen, man, yeah, frig, that is pretty freaking funny."
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
but like you said, I mean, I'm not a big fan of his, so
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
Charles
Charles
Grodin.
right. I just haven't seen him in a whole lot of stuff, and I'm not a big fan. But
One more movie I want to mention is Colors with Robert Duvall and Sean Penn. They play these cops out in the hood there in L.A. and the rival gangs with the colors, and that's what it's titled. Dennis Hopper directed that film. It's decent. It's a good watch.
So yeah, you say Colors. I had that on my honorables mention, by the way.
Good.
Beetlejuice, as quirky as it is and stuff like that, hey, it's an honorable mention for me too, Brian. So
yeah,
I watched it last night. Actually, it's kind of funny. It was on TV and I watched it.
Yeah, The Last Temptation of Christ would be my best honorable mention. That would have been my number 11, but I wanted to get Dominic and Eugene in there.
it's a movie you should at least see once. And a lot of people complain about the pace.
The pace, and it's controversial. If you're a Christian or whatever, you might not like it if you think that stuff too serious.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I heard stories of the Catholic Church had people just out there openly protesting the movie.
Yeah,
outside
The movie back then, for sure.
I don't believe in protesting something you haven't seen. I think that's ridiculous. You're going off the media and word of mouth.
Right.
Watch it, and then you can say this should be shut down, or whatever the case may be. Give it a shot.
Yeah, I did have The Couch Trip as one I mentioned before that I think is a pretty funny comedy out of that era.
Yeah.
I also had Deadpool that I was thinking about for a little bit. And probably my number 11 or 12 would have been Talk Radio.
Yeah, I only saw it once, and it didn't really hit home the way it should. I know it's highly acclaimed. A lot of people like that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie, man.
Yeah, I need to.
Yeah. A little
Who's
too
that?
much of there's a lot of, yeah, that's right.
The guy that played the lead, he didn't work for me. Maybe a different actor.
I would say it has a lot of undertones to something almost like you could compare it to like a Howard Stern.
That's what I see that, definitely.
Long before Howard Stern.
It was before Howard, yeah.
Yeah, it was 88.
All right, so that's our list for 1988. Make sure you go over to Brian's channel, Massey's Maine Entertainment. The description will be below. And check out our perfect album, our top 12 songs from that particular year.
Yeah.
Do the crossover. Check out our other years as well. They'll all be listed below.
Comment.
If you missed 85 or 81, go back and specifically pick out that year and check out our movies as well as music. So for Brian and Doc, this is Rich. We'll see you next time for 1989. Leave some comments, please. Take care.